now for something completely different. Well, completely different in that I usually don't illustrate in devotionals episodes from my life, but I'm going to in this devotional because I read this verse in the New Living Translation. It's Hebrews 11:1, and I've written devotionals about this verse before, about what faith is. It's a wonderful verse, and it lends itself to lots of explanation, but this time it's a more simple illustration from life and something that happened to me that was really good for me. Hebrews 11:1 says this in the New Living Translation. I'll tell you why that's important later. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. Bears repeating, even in this simplified language. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. It was a Sunday afternoon in Long Beach at 3rd and Obispo. It's a former address of Emmanuel Baptist Church of Long Beach, and I am a former pastor from about 30 plus years ago. The structure there at Emmanuel Baptist Church is much the same. It is now a senior living home for 25 low-cost apartments, meaning that the church is gone. But what a beautiful, absolutely beautiful and amazing repurposing of a place that I loved and I served, and it's wonderful people, and I love those wonderful people even more. It was my first pastorate, actually. An interesting side note, they voted 16-5 for us to come with very little discussion the day of the vote about calling a pastor. The pulpit committee, when they met with us before we ever met anybody at the church, they told us that the vote was going to be 16-5 weeks before the church family ever even met us. It's a long story, but we wholeheartedly know that we were called there. We stayed over 3 years and lots of lives were impacted. We started a release time education Christian Bible club for the elementary school across the street. There were successful outreaches to the local Alcoholics Anonymous community, the Hmong and the Mien communities too, many of whom ended up coming to Emmanuel, and some of them were there when we came. There was a choir ministry with Robert Lewis. He was a brilliant organist and a choir director in that choir music ministry. It grew. There is a historical Aeolian Skinner pipe organ in that building, and it's still there. It's still in the room, in the worship center, which is now a main hall of this senior living facility. And it's a former sanctuary. The stained glass windows were preserved. There were so many events, so many services, so many ministries. And as I recall the names and the faces of life stories, baptisms, decisions for Christ, counseling, Bible studies, youth and children's work, and so much more, and of course, a fair number of struggles too. I just had to weep a little bit, and I did. I wept as I sat alone in the sanctuary, and I prayed there in the light of those stained glass windows. Lord, somehow, let me know that you are still here working. And as I dried my tears and I got up to leave, I was overwhelmed with a sense of strength. A strength that only comes from Him via the Holy Spirit. So I went down a hall to the first resident room, number 202, and tucked in the nameplate of the door was a card prominently displaying this verse with these words from Hebrews 11:1 in the New Living Testament, in the New Living Translation. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. Oh, say no more. Can you imagine my joy when I was able to leave rejoicing by the same big wooden doors, just like I used to when I so cherished the challenge and the calling, because I was glad that there are seeds not only of many old plants still blooming in the planters, but of hopeful prayers that are answered to, even on the day that I visited my old church facility. I hope to come and share my story. I actually have been invited to do so by activity director there during their chapel service, and I'm going to do that someday soon, because God is so good. So I just had to share, and I had to shed even some more tears.